Hey guys, and welcome back to another episode of Not Your Average Fangirl. I'm your host, Addi, and today we are talking about all things Teen Wolf. I'm very, very excited. We've touched on Teen Wolf like a little bit in like other episodes, like the Kiss Mary Kill episode and the Unpopular Opinion episode last week, but we haven't like fully dove into it. So that's what we're doing today. I'm gonna talk about some of the main points and then I'm gonna answer some of your guys' Teen Wolf related questions. And if you wanted to ask a question for this episode and you didn't get a chance to, make sure you follow me on Instagram. It's addison.brienne, same on TikTok, and Instagram is where I do all of the little Q&A boxes, as well as notyouravagefangirl.pod, which is also on Instagram. Both of those accounts, you'll be able to find the Q&A boxes for any future episodes where you can ask a question. If that makes any sense. I hope it does. But yeah, let's get into today's episode. Previously on Not Your Average Fangirl. Okay, previously on, let's start with TV shows. So over this past week, I started watching Roswell, New Mexico. I've told you guys that I needed to watch it, and my mom forced me to watch the first episode. Haven't watched any more than that, but here's hoping that I'll get around to it and decide to do it. I did not watch a lot of TV this week, to be honest. I've been on such a reading kick, but we'll talk about books in a minute. Continuing with TV shows, I, of course, watched Young Sheldon, and I watched another episode of Pretty Little Liars, I think. And last thing for TV, I actually rewatched the entire The Summer I Turned Pretty series because my grandma was in town and she's never seen it, so me and my mom watched that with her, and it was fun because it's the middle of winter right now, giving all the summer vibes while it's cold outside. I live in Florida, so it's only 60 degrees outside, but still, it's cold. It's cold, okay? And then moving on to movies, did not watch any movies. Again, didn't watch any movies. Like I said, I barely watched TV this week, so definitely didn't have time to watch a movie. All right, music. So the Grammys was actually the other night, and I want to talk about that for a second. I obviously had to watch that, and as a Taylor fan, I'm wearing a Taylor themed shirt right now. You guys can't really see it. I have to hold it up. Here you go. But it's got all the little eras as bows, and it's so cute. And like I said, I watched the Grammys. If you also watched the Grammys, you would know that Taylor Swift announced her next album, which is not a re-recording. It's a whole new album. And I'm so, so excited. But I feel like the album is going to kind of give ever more folklore vibes. I feel like it's going to be very it's going to be sad, obviously, but I think it's going to be kind of folklore-esque, if that makes sense. So I've been listening to Folklore and Evermore a lot the last few days since that was announced. And before that, it was just kind of my basic always stuff, my go-to playlist. You guys know the gist. But also, I don't know if it was today or yesterday, but Taylor also dropped the track titles for the new album, and I'm obsessed with all of them. I can just already tell it's going to be so good. Obviously, it's Taylor, so it's going to be amazing, but I feel like this is going to be a fantastic album. So I'm so, so excited for it. But moving on, books. Like I said, I have been on such a reading kick. I talked about this last week when Grace was on, but I read 9 books in January, and I think I've already read 2 in February, maybe 3. I don't know. I think I've read 12 books this year so far. Hold on, we're going to check Goodreads real quick. Yeah, I've already read 12 books. That's insane. I'm 8 books ahead of schedule on my reading goal on Goodreads. That being said, I've read a lot of things. So first off, I finished the second book in the Inheritance Game series, and I'm going to be honest with you, the first one was kind of slow. I was excited for it, so I read it really quickly. I read it pretty quickly. I don't know if I'd say really quickly, but I wasn't really too excited to go into the next one just because the first one, I wanted a little bit more mystery that was kept me on my tiptoes. I needed to know what was going to happen. And the first one didn't really give me that. The second one I read in 2 days. I read half one day and half the next day, and it was so, so good. It is everything I was missing from the first one was in the second one. The mystery, the romance, it was just all top tier. And I definitely am going to be reading the third one now. I still didn't really feel like the second one was as good as it could be, so I gave it a 4.5 stars. I know most people gave that one a 5-star, but I'm hoping the third one will pick up. I haven't looked at anyone's reviews of it, people that I am friends with or follow on Goodreads, so I'm going in blind on what to expect, but I'm hoping it is just as good as the second one, because the second one I am thoroughly obsessed with, and I would definitely recommend the series. And then I talked also last week about how I read a new Frida McFadden book called Never Lie, and how I read it in one day because it was so good. So I went to Target and I got another Frida McFadden book, and I read that one in 2 days, and I think I am now obsessed with Frida McFadden. I'm not even sure that I'd say that the twists are like the most amazing thing ever, but something about her writing style is just like so addicting. Like I just can't put it down and I just fly through every single one of her books. All right, that is everything for the previously on portion of this episode. So let's get into the main part about Teen Wolf. Okay, so Teen Wolf, we got to start at the beginning on how I got into the show. So I started it, I think in 2021 or even 2020, to be honest. I was on a cheer team at the time. I used to be an all-star cheerleader, for anyone who didn't know. And I was on a cheer team, and there was this girl I was like acquaintances with on the team. Now she's one of my really close friends, but she also loved Vampire Diaries. And so we got talking about that one day, and I told her, I was like, I'm watching this new show. Oh my God, I literally just got a memory for it on Snapchat today that I was watching this show for the first time. But I started watching Containment, which if you haven't heard of it, it's a show from the CW. It only had one season, but the cast is a lot of Vampire Diaries cast, and I love Chris Wood so much, and he's the main guy in it. So I was watching it because of him, and I was like falling in love with it. I was like, this is an amazing show. I was so sad there was only one season. I was talking to her about it, and I was like, you should watch this show if you like Vampire Diaries. Like, it's so good, and it has a bunch of the cast. And she was like, okay, well, if I'm gonna watch that, then you have to watch Teen Wolf. And I was like, Teen Wolf? And she was like, yeah, like, have you heard of it before? And I'd seen it on TikTok and stuff, but I'd never really been like too interested to watch it. And she was like, if you watch Teen Wolf, I'll watch Containment. And so that's what we did. And all of the credit, goes to her, Ella. She always, like, you'll see her in my comment section on TikTok sometime, like if I post about Teen Wolf or something. But that's how I started Teen Wolf, and I binged the entire show pretty quickly after that because it's a great show. Okay, so next we're gonna move on to some of the basics. Favorite characters. So obviously I love Styles. I mean, who doesn't love Styles? He's like the go-to, and I don't feel like he's even overhyped because he's just that good of a character. Like, he's a great character, and he's played by Dylan O'Brien. Like, can it get any better? No, no, it can't. So obviously, I love Styles so much. He's probably my favorite character. But I love Scott too. I think, and I was trying to think if there's like any other characters, like for boys at least. I also really like Isaac. I think he's pretty great. He's pretty funny. But for girls, my favorite is definitely Lydia. I love her so much. She's such a queen, such a girl boss. Like, I don't know. She's a great female character. Like, she doesn't really ever get on my nerves, and I love Styles too, so obviously they're really cute together, which is great for me. Which, if we move on to favorite ships, my favorite ship obviously is Stydia. Stydia is such a great ship. I love them so much. I love like them in the beginning. I love them in the end. Like, I don't know. They're so cute together. I love them. I'm not going to repeat the same thing over and over again. But yeah, I love their relationship so much. Like, him being like this like dorky little like sarcastic nerd, and her being like this like strong, powerful, smart woman, and he's just like, I know how smart you are. You try and hide it, but you're awesome. Like, I think their dynamic is just so cute, and they're great for each other. So that's definitely my favorite ship. Moving on to favorite season. Another basic answer, but obviously I'm going to say season 3. I think season 3B is Void Styles, but that's my favorite season. The storyline, the plot, like, it's all so good. And I know it's basic. I know that's everyone's favorite, but it's just so good, and you can't deny greatness, okay? I feel like also low key though, I kind of love the Ghost Riders. Like, it's obviously like sad, like when Styles gets taken away, but like all of them like losing their memories. It's kind of cool. Like, I kind of like it. I respect like the thought that was put into it. Like, it's a interesting storyline. Like, even though I'm so upset when I watch it because like they're tearing Styles and Lydia apart, but like also her remembering him and stuff. Like, I think it's also a great one that we don't talk about enough, but it is really sad. So I guess that's why it's not the favorite. And of course, same thing. Favorite villain. Obviously, my favorite villain is Void, specifically Void Styles. Like, again, like, it's the OG. It's basic, but it's the go-to for a reason, and I'm just not going to question it, you know? Okay, and then this is like a little bit random, but last time I was in LA, I went and visited like the school where they filmed. So like the school that was used is Beacon Hills High, and then I visited the hotel from Motel California episode, and I just wanted to mention it because it was so cool getting to like see it in person. And there's like, under the school when there's that little walkway, and like, for example, the scene where they meet Theo for the first time and it's like raining, that little like under walkway, whatever you want to call it. Like, I made videos down there, and it was so cool to see in person. And also Motel California was like really cool because that's definitely one of my favorite episodes. I don't know if I could narrow it down enough to say my favorite Teen Wolf episode. I feel like I would need to rewatch it with that in mind, like that I'm trying to find my favorite episode. But Motel California is definitely a great episode and definitely one of my favorites. So, all right, so that's pretty much everything for like all of the main stuff and the basics. Now we're going to move on to the Q&A part of the episode. So, these are all questions asked by you guys, and I'm going to do my best to answer as many of them as I can. So, let's go. First off, we have, do I ship Theum? Yes, obviously, Theum is so cute. I love them so much. Like, I love when I get like a cute Theum edit on my For You page and stuff. And I am such a hardcore Theum stan that actually, when I interviewed Tyler Posey, which was one of my first interviews I've ever done, I asked him if he shipped Theum or not. And that was like my first like iconic interview moment that I posted on TikTok, and people were like, "Oh my god," and like obsessed over, which is really cool for me because it's like I just wanted to know the answer. Like, did he ship Theum? I just wanted to know. But if you were wondering, if you haven't seen that interview clip, yes, Tyler Posey does ship Theum. He's one of us. But yeah, I think they're really cute together. So I was really sad when Cody Christian wasn't coming back for the Teen Wolf movie because I wanted Theum to reunite. Like, I wanted to see Theo and Liam together again. So, and speaking of the movie, someone asked what my thoughts were on the movie. And to be honest, like, I don't know, like, I was really excited, but I didn't get my hopes up like too high. And it just kind of like wasn't what I expected it to be. Like, I'm not sure what I expected, but it wasn't that. And like, I don't know, it just felt kind of like strange and like off to me. Like, it didn't give me the same feeling that watching like aside from like the plot and the storyline being kind of whack, like the vibes just weren't the same. It didn't give me that same Teen Wolf feeling, you know? So I didn't love it. I didn't hate it either. It was still like amazing, to get to see those characters again and see them in the future, like what they're doing with their lives. But it's just the execution like wasn't my personal favorite, but it was still, I'm grateful that we got it and we got to see those characters again, is what I'm trying to say. Okay, next we have Stydia or Stylia, and you guys already know my answer is Stydia. But I will say, like, I thought that Styles and Malia were cute together too. Like, I did like them together. I think it was a good little moment for him because she's like kind of like totally wild. Like, Lydia's like, she's really cool, but she's like more like not chill. Chill's not the word I'm thinking of. She's kind of like strict with like her life and stuff, and Malia is just kind of like all over the place. And so I think it was good for Styles to have that little crazy moment in his life, but I definitely prefer Stydia over Stylia. Okay, next I had a few different people say that they're fans of the Vampire Diaries and like they want to know if they should watch Teen Wolf, like would I recommend it to them, and do I think that fans of the Vampire Diaries will like Teen Wolf? And my answer is 100% yes. And the facts to back it up is that I watched Teen Wolf after I watched Vampire Diaries. I was a hardcore Vampire Diaries fan. That was like the only show I watched over and over again for like a year. And then I watched Teen Wolf and I absolutely loved it. They're definitely different. Like, don't expect it to be like the same kind of vibe. Like, Vampire Diaries is like a lot more like mature. Like, they're high schoolers, but are they? Like, are they? I don't know. Teen Wolf, they're definitely like high schoolers. Like, it feels a little bit more realistic, if that makes sense. But I would definitely recommend it. It's got that supernatural aspect, but also like the romance subplot kind of action going on. So if you like the Vampire Diaries, you'll probably like Teen Wolf too. Okay, and then someone asked what my thoughts were on Derek. I don't have a lot of thoughts on Derek. I don't think about him that often, to be honest. Like, he's a good character. He's funny. I like his like he's not like intentionally funny. He just is funny. Like, he doesn't try and crack jokes, but like he'll say something and I'll laugh at it. Does that make sense? I don't know. I think he's a great guy. So my thoughts are very positive. And going back to Styles, someone said, do I prefer Styles or Void Styles? Definitely, like, Void Styles is probably my favorite villain. Like I said, he's my favorite villain, but Styles is my favorite character. Definitely Styles over Void Styles. Because it's like, I don't actually like Void. Like, he's a good villain, but I don't actually like him as a person. The only thing that makes him better as Void Styles is that he looks like Dylan O'Brien. Definitely, you like yeah, you lose out on all of like the best parts of Styles when it's Void. So that's pretty easy for me, I feel like. Okay, next we have Kira or Allison, and I have a lot to say on this subject, okay? Okay, so the last time I rewatched Teen Wolf was with my mom, and we're watching this, right? And like, Allison is great. Like, I love Allison. She's not my favorite female character because she does get on my nerves occasionally, but she's a great character and she's a baddie, so I like her. And we're rewatching it, and Kira comes on, and like, I just don't understand why she never hits anything with that sword. Okay, like, watching Teen Wolf, she gets it out, right? She pulls the sword out of its thing, swings it around, does a bunch of cool moves with it, and then the second someone actually comes towards her and like she actually has to fight them, she gets pushed over or knocked over, or the sword never actually hits anything. Like, she always loses the fight. Like, she pulls it out, looks all cool, spins it around, and then loses, and then Scott has to run up and save her. What? Like, I thought, like, I just don't get it. Like, why can't she ever hit anything with the sword? That's my biggest problem with her character. Like, they get into battle, and she just needs saving. And it doesn't make any sense, because she's supposed to be a great warrior. Like, she's supposed to be able to hit things with that sword, but she never does. Maybe that's just a me issue, but it literally drives me crazy when I rewatch it. So definitely Allison. Like I said, she's a good character, but it just drives me crazy when they're in a fight or something. I feel very passionately about this, if you can't tell. But yeah, I like her as a person. Just Allison, actually hits things when they fight, so I have to pick Allison. Okay, and then someone asked what my favorite, like, behind the scenes, like, on set moment was with the cast, and I put this one down because I immediately had an answer. Like, the first thing that comes to my mind, I don't know if you guys have seen that clip of, like, Dylan being, like, Void, and he's, like, got the sunglasses on, and it shows Tyler, and he's like, "Ever since Dylan became Void, he's been, like, acting, like, different," and then it shows, like, the other, like, crew member or something, and they're like, "Yeah, he's been acting weird," and he, like, shows up behind her, and he's like, "What'd you say?" And he's, like, acting, like, all crazy, like, Void. I don't know, like, that clip just gets me. It's so funny. Like, every time I see it, I laugh, and someone made, like, an edit of it where they put, like, text on the screen, and they did, like, funny little, like, filters on it and stuff, and it's so funny. I love it so much. So, definitely that clip. Okay, and this isn't really, like, a question for, like, me specifically, it's just kind of, like, in general, a thought on the show. Someone said, "Why do they always say, like, an act like Lydia was, like, really popular, but they never show her hanging out with anybody else? Like, she's, like, this really popular girl, right? But she has no friends." And I'm like, "You know what? You're kind of right." Like, they never showed her having any other friends besides, like, Allison. I don't feel like they really ever showed that. Okay, and so if you guys didn't know, I'm going to a convention in March in Chicago called Epic Cons Chicago, and there's going to be some of the Teen Wolf cast there. And so someone asked who I want to interview most. Epics and Chill was the first convention I ever did interviews at or ever attended, and that had Teen Wolf cast at it too. It was an Epic Cons event, and my first ever interview is there, and my first ever interview that I ever did that nobody will ever see is with Holland Roden, and no one will ever see it. It will never see the light of day because it is like, it's not like it's like, it's just I didn't know what I was doing. Like, it seems like, like, professional enough, but it's like I wasn't. It's just it'll never see the light of day. So I just wanted to let you guys know that I did interview Holland Roden, and it does exist, but you will never see it. But also, that's when I interviewed Tyler Posey as well, and so I'm hoping to interview Tyler Posey again because he's really funny and really great, and I love him. But the two, like, I would say the two cast members, obviously Dylan. I would literally die to interview Dylan O'Brien. He's amazing. But I also really, really, really would love to interview Cody Christian, who's, like, probably one of my other favorite Teen Wolf cast members. Like, I keep up with his Instagram all the time, and lately he's been posting a lot for anyone else that follows him. Like, he's been very active on Instagram lately. But yeah, I guess you'll just have to wait and see who I interview in Chicago next month. I'm very excited. I think it's going to be fun, and I can't wait to see some of the Teen Wolf cast again, because other than Tyler Posey, I haven't really seen any of them since that first one, and I had no idea what I was doing. Like I said, that was my first convention, so I didn't really get any pictures with anybody or know what was going on half the time I was there. And also, I would like to interview Holland Roden again, and this time actually know what I'm doing. Okay, next, of course, we can't go an episode without a Kiss, Marry, Kill. So someone said, Kiss, Marry, Kill, Scott, Styles, and Derek. And honestly, I probably did this in the Kiss, Marry, Kill episode, but I'm gonna go Mary Styles, Kiss, Scott, Kill Derek. Because I like Derek, but not as much as I like the other two. He didn't make it on my favorite characters list, so sorry, Derek. All right, next we have in Teen Wolf, which supernatural creature would I be or, like, want to be? And I'm just gonna say definitely not the werewolves. I wouldn't know. Like, the hair that grows on their face and the claws, like, no thanks. And the one girl that has the claws for toenails, like, are you telling me there's a chance that that could be me? Because no, pass, hard pass, definitely not that. Yeah, so definitely not werewolf. But other than that, I don't know. I mean, does being, like, a hunter, like Allison, count? Huntress, whatever. Does that count? Because I'd probably pick that. The supernatural creature selection for Teen Wolf is very limited. If I had to pick one of the monsters, maybe, like, what was the ant? Wasn't it like a were jaguar or something? I don't know if it had, like, a cool name, but if I had to pick one of those, maybe that. I'm trying to think of, like, all the creatures. I don't know. I don't think I'd want to be a banshee. Lydia never seemed that happy with being a banshee. So, I don't know. I'd probably say huntress, hunter, whatever Allison is. If that counts. That's my answer. Okay. Next, we have an underrated character, and I'm, like, trying to think about this, and honestly, I don't feel like we talk about Coach enough. Coach is so funny. I love that guy. Like, he brings so much to the show, and I feel like we would be so sad without him. So I'd probably say Coach. I don't know that he's like that underrated. Like, I know everyone loves him, but I just don't think we talk about him enough. We have a couple that had potential. You know who I'm not gonna say? Derek and Styles. We talked about that last week. I don't get that. I never will. Never will. But honestly, I really wish like we could have actually seen Lydia and Parrish together at some point. You know? Like I feel like obviously I love Styles and Lydia the most, but it could have been fun to see them together for a minute. Instead, we just got like all that like flirting and like I don't know, whatever that was, and then like nothing ever came of it. So I would say maybe Lydia and Parrish. Someone also asked about that, like in general. They were like, do you think they could have been cute together? I feel like they had cute moments. Obviously, there was like an age issue going on, but I don't know. Could have been fun. Okay, and going back to talking about Coach, someone said, do you think that Coach was like oblivious and didn't know about the werewolves or any of his students at all? Or do you think he knew and was keeping it a secret? That's a great question. Do I think he knew? I don't think he did. It would have been cool if he did, though. But I don't think he did. I think he had no idea what was going on. He was in his own little Coach world most of the time. So then someone asked for me to compare the Vampire Diaries werewolves and the Teen Wolf werewolves, and there are a bunch of like small differences that like I'm not gonna get into right now because that's like would be a very long answer. But the main one is that in Teen Wolf, it's just like they get a little bit of hair on their faces, they get claws, you know. But in Vampire Diaries, the werewolves turn into like actual wolves. So that's definitely like the main difference. In Vampire Diaries, they look cooler, in my opinion. In Teen Wolf, sometimes it's like, what are you guys doing? What was it? Was it Scott that like got down and started running on all fours that one episode, or was it Derek? I don't remember, but that was funny. I don't know what was going on. If we're asking which one I prefer, it's definitely the Vampire Diaries werewolves. Okay, and very lastly, this question was asked by Grace. She said, if you could be a Teen Wolf character for a day, who would you be? And I would say my answer is probably Lydia. She's my favorite female character. I think my answer for Vampire Diaries was Caroline, to be honest. But yeah, definitely Lydia. Plus, then I could, be with Styles for a day. So that would be fun. But definitely Lydia. She's so cool. All right, and that is all of the questions you guys had for me. So that's pretty much it for today's episode. As always, if there is something you want me to like focus in a little bit more on or talk a little bit more on, send me a message. Send Not Your Average Fangirl a message on Instagram and let me know. But I think that's everything. So I will see you guys next week. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. And yeah, bye.